सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे। रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमू रामाय तस्मै नमः। रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। श्रीरामाय नमस्तुभ्यं कृपया तव शक्यते सुखेनाभ्यसितुं लब्धं ज्ञानं दैनिकजीवने। Hari Om. So we are looking at Vedanta Chintanam. Vedanta is that knowledge which, having understood, should translate in my thinking and then eventually reflect also in my actions. And this knowledge is so powerful that a person or a spiritual seeker who studies thoroughly through a teacher and has faith in Bhagwan, this knowledge will give this seeker that wings to fly very high. So the seeker can fly very high with these wings that Vedanta will give, but it expects two wings. One wing is clarity of knowledge, and the other wing is purity of mind. So when both of these come together, then the Upanishads say this seeker is ready to fly high now. So in Living Vedanta, what we are trying to dwell on is, having understood this knowledge, how can we actually develop whatever things which were lacking in us so that we can actually benefit from this knowledge and come to live Vedanta. So in the last class, we saw shloka 2 through 4, where we looked at the word darshanam, Vedanta darshanam. So we looked at what does darshanam mean. We looked at how it, different rishis who asked different questions about life came to certain conclusions about the essence of Vedas, and that became a darshanam. And then we also saw that Vedanta darshanam is beautiful because it doesn't have conflict with any other darshana. Whereas sadhanas are concerned, it will take all darshanas and leverage upon each of these vision of lives to take sadhanas. So that was about darshanam. Then we saw the words shuddham. Why is it shuddham? Why is it pure? Because it removes the sense of doership and enjoyership, which is the first impurity, and also reveals the nature of my own self, which is of the nature of purity. So that was regarding the word Vedanta Darshanam. Then we saw the word Pratyakshanubhavam. What does that word mean in terms of this is the most immediate thing which I am ever experiencing. So Vedanta talks about that Atman. And then we went into third shloka, which spoke about what is Vedanta Mata, means what is the essence of Vedanta, what is Vedanta trying to say. So there it was pointed out that Vedanta is saying, I am not this body, I am not the mind, I am not intellect, and I am also not ahankara. These four things I am not. Now this seeker has a peculiar question where he says, I have understood this, but how do I live with this knowledge now? Okay, so the next verses will continue from there. So the fourth verse said, so I hope all of you are having at least the soft copy, if not the hard copy. So please do look at that verse. This was one of the things Gurudev mandated, that every student should have a book. And he used to say the reason is that you would know whether or not the speaker is bluffing or not. If the speaker is saying something which is not what the shloka is saying, so then you should make sure you note it and question it. So I hope all of you have that book. So it said, Tesham atmatva matram hi nirastam iha nastita yojaniyascha tasmate vyavahare vivekatah. So it said, how should I employ this body, mind, and intellect in transactional world, vyavahara? So it was pointed out I should employ it with viveka, means with discrimination. Now then we saw these two planes in Vedanta, right? One was Paramarthika. The bottom one is Paramarthika, which is the absolute plane. And the one on top is Vyavaharika, which is our transactional plane. And this plane is such, the transactional one, that it always keeps moving. So we see that in our waking, dream, and deep sleep, always there is some kind of movement of this transactional world. And it is there sometimes, it is not there sometimes. So in deep sleep state, we don't see anything from waking and dream. So that is the nature of this Vyavahara. But what should I do in Vyavahara? So then it is said, I should increase my Sattva. Right? So in Vyavahara, I should try to become as sattvic as possible so that my discrimination is clear and I can make right decisions. So then we had seen a point where we saw that even in Vyavahara, world by itself is never a problem. This is a very unique idea of Vedanta. So it is good if we think about it in this way. That, there are so many things in this creation. There are mountains, rivers, and so many other things which are there, which by themselves are part of creation, but they're never a problem to me. If you have seen the movie On a Quest, there is one scene where Taponji Maharaj is standing with Gurudev, and Gurudev is looking at this Himalayas, which are these beautiful snow-capped mountains. And Taponji Maharaj asks Gurudev, do you see that mountain? He says, yes. Gurudev says, yes. And then Taponji Maharaj asks, do you enjoy the scenery? Gurudev says, yes. Do you own it? Then he says, no. So what this shows is, world by itself is material element, right? The material element part of this world is never a problem. It includes persons also. We will come to that, but let us start with something which is more easier to understand. Now let us say that same mountain, I have some selfish interest there. I say, what if I open some tourism department? It's a nice mountain. I can do some, what is that called? Zip lining, from this end to that end. Then you see, once something starts getting colored on top of this beautiful mountain, then, some things will start. I will get anxious. I will have some kind of other, motivation or motives to get from that creation or piece of part of creation. So technically, this two is called Ishvara Srishti and Jiva Srishti. Ishvara Srishti is that which we all are born into, the material world, right? The 5 elements which are around us, that is Ishvara Srishti. So by itself, it is not going to give me any trouble. But what happens is, on top of this Ishvara Srishti, we project our Jiva Srishti. Okay, there are 2 aspects here. One is Ishvara Srishti, another is Jiva Srishti. What gives us sorrow is this Jiva Srishti. Ishvara Srishti, actually speaking, is a teacher. It's a guru. Many of you might have studied Bhagavatam, where you saw Avadhuta who has 24 gurus. Where is he finding those gurus from? Ishvara Srishti. Means he's looking at creation and trying to learn from creation. So that is the two aspects, that although we say there are two planes, right? This is where we started the idea. One is absolute plane, another is Vyavaharik plane. In Vyavaharik plane, the more I'm able to look at Ishvara Srishti, more I'm able to increase my sattva, more I'm able to see things as they are, not coloring them with my own likes and dislikes. I will be learning more from things and also having a reasonably happy life. Okay, so that was this point about Jiva Srishti and Ishvara Srishti. More elaboration will come, but I thought of just introducing this concept here. So now we will go on to the 5th verse, which talks about how to make intelligent use of this body. So now remember, Vedanta has said, I am not this body. But if I have to live Vedanta, I need to know what is the most intelligent way of making use of this physical body. So that is there in this next verse. Naradehah punya praptah, Naradehah punya praptah, Sarvabhutahite sada, Sarvabhutahite sada, Nishreyasi cha yoktavyah, Nishreyasi cha yoktavyah, Sarveshe chati prematah, Sarveshe chati prematah, Naradehah punya praptah, Sarvabhutahite sada, Nishreyasi cha yoktavyah, Sarveshe chati prematah. So you must be seeing the way that we are looking at every shloka. So first we chant every quarter, then we repeat, then we chant the entire shloka together. And then what I'm doing here is just reorganizing the words in Sanskrit so that we can just easily read it, just to put the prose order. And then we look at each word, what is the hidden import or deeper import of each word. So that is how we should look at most of these shlokas, so that the meaning becomes more clearer. So the fifth shloka says, Naradehaha punya praptaha. Means this human body is attained because of good karmas. Then it says, Sada sarva bhutahite nishreyasi cha sarveshe cha ati prematah yoktavyah. Means what should I do with this body? I should use it for 3 purposes. First purpose is for serving others, sarva bhuta hite. Second purpose is for gaining this self-knowledge, nishreyasi, for moksha. Third one is sarveshe, means for cultivating devotion to Bhagavan. So that body which I am not, that body I should use it in this way now. First one is to serve others. Second is to use it for gaining knowledge. And third one is to cultivate devotion for Bhagavan. So now we should just dwell a little bit about what is this rarity of human body. Just if you look at this earth, right, there are almost around 9 million species. Out of that, having a human body is indeed very rare. And the uniqueness of this human body is such that we have a choice, we have an ability to overcome our lower instincts and strive for something higher. We have a choice to say, I want to become a better person, a better human being. I don't think a lion anytime thinks that, I need to become a better lion. Even if it pounces on some other animal, we don't criticize that lion. This is because that lion is bound as though by its own instincts. Whereas humans, we have choice of how we want to shape our life. Right? That itself makes this human birth very unique. Just think about it. 9 million species, only one has this kind of a choice that we need to, we have this ability to move further in our journey. There was a young boy who went to a Mahatma, and this, a seeker who was wanting to know about life and just had a lot of questions. He asked a similar question. He said to this Mahatma, what is the value of human life? And these Mahatmas, you know how they are. So that Mahatma gave him a stone, a shiny kind of a metal. And he said, you go and show this to different people and tell me what they tell you about this stone. So this young boy, he went and showed it to his friends. They said, it looks like a ball. Come, let's play with it. They started playing along with it. So after playing, he took that stone again. And then he went, while he was returning back to his home, he saw a person making those chandeliers, blowing glass. So he showed it to this person and said, this stone? Do you know what is the worth of this stone? He said, it looks something shining, but it is not, too good for me. I can use it maybe for some decoration. So I'll give you some money for that, just worth of what my glass would give me. So then he looked at that chandelier person and then he said, no, I don't want to give, took the stone and went away. Then he came to this diamond merchant. This merchant is the one he looks at that stone, but he realizes that this stone needs some purification now. He can remove the impure part of it and then get a very precious metal out of it. He is the one who realizes the right value of that stone and tells that boy also that how precious this stone is. Then he comes back to his guru, the Mahatma, and then he asks, what did you learn? So he narrates all the stories that he heard from these three people. So then the guru tells him, the same is with our physical body. The value of that stone was only as much as the value people had for the thing that they were doing. Means, depending upon my goal of life, I will have value for this human body. If it is only indulgence, like the boys who are playing, it would be just used for just any other purpose, just to not having any particular goal as such. But let us say if it is to make money and have a decent life, that is also a goal. So that is like that chandelier person. He can decorate the body, decorate that stone, and use it in his work. But this third person who has a very divine goal, you call, or a higher goal, that person will say, although now I don't see it in this way, I can still remove the impurity and then try to understand how great this body is. So that is our vision about having a human body. In Bhagavatam, it is said, Jivasya tattva jijnasa nartho yascheha karmabhihi. Means the main purpose of having human body or having this physical embodiment is to have tattva jijnasa. Means to seek for this knowledge and not, it doesn't have its own purpose. It says, even selfless action, dharma that we do, the purpose of dharma is not to gain pleasures, because it could be also for gaining pleasures. It says it is for liberation. The money that we earn, Bhagavatam says that money is to do dharma, not for enjoyment again. And it says, then what is the purpose of all these pleasures? So if you notice, it's talking about 4 purushartha: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Right? So dharma, it said, should be for moksha. Then money that we gain, artha should be for dharma, so that I can get moksha. Now it's talking about Kama Purushartha. So it is said, Kama Purushartha is only to keep us going. That is not the main goal of having a human body. So in this way, different places it is pointed out why this human birth is so rare. So then there are three ways that are mentioned here, right? How we should use this human body. So first one is Sarva Bhuta Hite, for serving others. Now, if that Sarva Bhuta becomes Swasya Hite, means for my own self, that is where problems start. When I have too much identification with one body, then instead of Sarva Bhuta Hite, it becomes Swasya Hite, means for my own good. So in simple words, instead of saying what I can get, if I can think what I can give, that itself is serving others. But one thing to note here is serving need not always be a physical thing that we give. That is, of course, serving. It is the most noble way of serving. It is also something that we should do. But there are a few other ways also we should recognize that we can serve others. Being cheerful is a way of serving. Because you don't even know, because these are some methods of serving that can go unnoticed. The person whom you serve also might not know that you are serving. You also might not know. But it is a way of serving. Just being cheerful in a group of people or wherever we are. Encouraging someone to do something that they are doing, a good thing that they are doing. This is also serving. Trying to be a part of somebody's joys or sorrows, sincerely. Being part of both of it is also serving others. So this is Sarva Bhuta Hite. In Tulsi Ramayana, Bhagwan calls all the brothers after they come back to Ayodhya, and he says the essence of entire Puranas is in this understanding. That if I can think about serving others, that he says is the greatest dharma that we can do. Parahita sarisa dharma nahi bhai, parapida sama nahi adhamai, nirnaya sakala purana bedakara. Means this entire Puranas, their essence is in this understanding that may I use this body to serve others. Now, if you see, Guruji has used a word, Sarva Bhuta Hite. Our Sanatana Dharma, if you ask, what is it built on? What is the foundation that it is built on? It is Hita Pradhana Dharma. Hita means that which brings about overall well-being. Okay, that is Hitam. So my thinking should always be what can be good for the community. Means my decisions can be based on that as my foundation. Okay, that is our Sanatana Dharma. Now the next word is Sarva Bhuta Hite Sada. Now imagine, how can I serve everyone or people around me all the time? There would be some time where I'm not able to serve, right? So we should understand what this word Sada is talking about. It is saying that this Seva Bhava which is there should become one with my personality. It is not a cultivated virtue where I say, evening 7:45 to 8:45, I'm a sevak, and rest of the time I have other roles to play. So this is saying, make seva as your primary identity, no matter where we are. That is the only way where we can, say that this is Sada Sarva Bhuta Hite, means all the time thinking about welfare of everyone. Now, if you look at our Gurudev's life, every action, every response that he gave to the questions people asked, you can see this hidden in those answers. His main thought, if you would say, was how can this jiva move ahead on this journey? move further on this journey. And according to the ability to digest, he would give answers to different seekers. This is, Sarva Bhuta Hite Sada. So there is a book, right? Every breath a teaching. So as breathing is all the time, that attitude of seva is also all the time. It is not something where I own up that seva bhava for certain time, but the rest of the time, it's a different hat that we are wearing. So that is the beauty of this human body. Sarva Bhuta Hite Sada. And that word we saw, right? Hitam, when we say overall well-being, means my seva should bring unity in any community that I'm living. If I can accomplish that, it would be, the best use that I'm making of this human body. This concept, right, of dwelling on human body is actually very beneficial for a sadhaka. It also removes a lot of erroneous notions we entertain about human body by saying that Vedanta is telling us, I am not the body. I will give you an example. Hanumanji, when he goes across the ocean, Surasa comes. One of the obstacles that he faces is Surasa. Now, Hanumanji is a jnani. He knows that he is not the body. And when Surasa says that I want to eat you, he says no. If he was so detached from the body, he would have said, eat me if you want. Right? It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want with this body. But he says, no, I have Ramji's work to be done. After I finish that, I myself will come and enter your mouth. So point to note here is, in Vedanta, what is important is clarity of knowledge. So when I say I am Brahman from absolute standpoint. That doesn't mean having a body in Vyavahara is going to affect me in any way. So that is the symbolism behind that incident, that Hanumanji says, I know I'm not the body, but I know how to use that instrument. Okay. So that doesn't have anything to do with lack of knowledge or any kind of, lack of nishtha, you call in jnanam. So with that, we saw the first one, right? Sarva Bhuta Hite Sada. Then the second one is how to use this body. This shloka says for liberation or for gaining knowledge. Nishreyasi cha yoktavyaha. After Ramchandraji comes back in Ayodhya, he addresses all people of Ayodhya. And this is the message actually that he gives in that address. What we saw in one of the satsangs, he says this body is like a sadhana dhama, mokshakara dwara. It's as though like a door where I can enter for gaining liberation. We talk about sadhana chatushtaya. So this body is the only place or the place where I can start gathering this sadhana chatushtaya. So that is the best way I can use this body. And this is actually speaking an evolution in a sadhaka where he now starts enjoying doing sadhana. Either it is getting up early, doing some puja, doing some shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam. Everything requires body. But he's now enjoying doing these things. So that is the best use I can make of this human body. And it's a great blessing if we can have a low maintenance body. Those who study in Sandipani, on an average, in one day, you end up sitting for 14 hours cross-legged like this. If you just count all your meditation time, shravanam time, study time, all other, just in this posture, you will sit somewhere around 12 to 14 hours. So imagine how important it is to have a healthy body to gain this knowledge, nishreyasi. So that is the glory of having a healthy body. Even while we are doing Shravanam, right? If I have any body part which is giving pain, it's very hard to concentrate. It will constantly say, I'm here, I'm here. So that portion about having a healthy body, it should not be neglected. And posture should be such that once we sit right in one posture, we can sit in the same posture, let us say, for at least 1 hour minimum. It won't come right away. Let us say we start with 15 minutes, half an hour, gradually increasing it for 45 minutes, and then coming to 1 hour. Means no body part should be moving or having the need to move. It doesn't matter if it's cross-legged, you can sit on a chair also, but it should be such that I should not be able to, or I should not be moving any body parts for that duration of time. So that is using this body for Nishreyasi. Now comes the third one, which is Sarva Bhuta Hite Sada Nishreyasi and Sarveshe. Sarveshe means to cultivate devotion to Bhagavan. So that is the third portion or the third way in which I can make the best use of this body. So what does it mean to use this body for cultivating devotion to Bhagavan? One simple understanding is, having this love for doing pujas. Puja dishu anuragaha. That is the first way where we can start connecting with Bhagavan. And what happens in pujas? We do this Atma Puja. Right? Deho devalaya prokto jevo deva sanatanaha tyajet ajnana nirmalyam soham bhavena pujayet. Means this puja will introduce a sanctity within this human body. Instead of looking at it just as another body, I will start looking at it as a sacred thing which I can use it to worship Bhagwan. That is the glory of doing these pujas. And of course, other ways are, some people like to do Katha Shravanam. So that is also there, Katha Dishu Anuragaha, where you use this physical body just to listen to glories of Bhagavan. What is the main point of all this thing is that first it was said, I am not the body. So the best way I can use this body is in these three ways: serving others, gaining knowledge, and having devotion to Bhagwan. So if you paid attention, the first one was Karma Yoga. Second was Jnana Yoga, or Jnanam, gaining Jnanam. And third was Bhakti Yoga. Sometimes we ask each other, right, how was your day? And we say good. You say that it was good, but internally ask yourself this question: did I actually serve others today? In whatever way, we saw different ways of serving others. Did I actually serve others? Did I spend some time doing Shravanam or, gaining this knowledge in whatever way, sadhana, different things we saw? And did I spend some time cultivating devotion for Bhagavan? If the answer is yes, then I had a good day. You don't have to stop every time, okay, before you answer. You say it was a good day, but then you can reflect internally whether it was really a good day. Okay. So that was this shloka where it said that human body is very rare and how best we can use it. Now we will see the next shloka, which is talking about, now I have this human body, it will always have some interactions. In Tattva Bodha, we have studied that this is like a counter. When you go to a hotel, you have a reception desk, right? Where you have different transactions happening on both sides. So it is as though like that reception desk, a counter where different interactions will happen with situations of this world. So the next shloka says, how should we deal with situations that we go through in our life? So we'll chant the words. Anishtamishtam mishram cha, Anishtamishtam mishram cha, Phalam prapnoti manavah, Phalam prapnoti manavah, Krutakarmanusarena, Krutakarmanusarena, Samatvam teshu dharayet, Samatvam teshu dharayet, Anishtamishtam mishram cha, Phalam prapnoti manavah, Krutakarmanusarena, Samatvam teshu dharayet. Kruta karma anusarena, Manavah, Anishtam ishtam mishram, Phalam prapnoti. Means according to the karmas that we have done, all human beings get results which are of three kinds. First one is anishtam, that which we don't want. Second is ishtam, those results that we want. And third is mishram, means that is a combination of both of these. Now, once these results come, what should we do? Samatvam teshu dharayet, means go through them with equanimity. What are those results? Three types: ishtam, anishtam, ishtam, and mishram. You know, this is the beauty of our rishis. They always like to classify things, and their classification will be so precise. It's very difficult, you know, to find anything outside of those categories. But first, we will see the word kruta karma anusarena. Means according to karma, circumstances have come in my life. Now, this thinking is a maturity in the stage of a seeker. What is the first instance or the natural instinct? Natural instinct is to say that the world is responsible for giving me joys and sorrows, or this person has come in, had said something to me, or this situation is there because of this, and so on. But this karma theory, law of karma, is saying that everything that I'm seeing in my life right now, even the material things which are there, objects which are manifesting in front of my eyes, everything has come because of my own karma. People who interact with me are also interacting based upon my own karma. And their job is only to do this particular thing. It will either create a sukhakara vritti or dukhakara vritti. Means karma, it will either create a joyful thought or a sorrowful thought. After that, it's gone. You wonder, where did it come and where did it go? This is, we say it is law of karma, right? A law is something which if I understand, I can, and if I understand and own it up, I know how it works, then I can intelligently live by that law. You say law of gravity, for example. It is a fact. It will act no matter whether I agree with it or not. I say I don't agree with this law of gravity. Let me jump from the 10th floor. The law of gravity will say I will work no matter, if you agree with me or not, it doesn't matter. So similarly with law of karma, there are of course a lot of logic and everything to prove why this law of karma is true in Vyavahara. But when we look at it, we realize that more we understand this law of karma, better we can be while dealing with situations. Most of you must be listening to Guruji's Kathopanishad, where the instance where Nachiketaji's father tells him that you should go to Lord Yama. You see his thinking, what he says there. He doesn't blame his father. He doesn't say that I didn't do anything. I just asked a simple question and he has told me to go to Yamaloka. He says, Bahunamemi pratamaha, Bahunamemi madhyamaha. Kimsvid yamasya kartavyam yanmayadya karishyasi. Means he says, I have always been either at the top or sometimes a little down. Means my karmas have always been good. I have never done any forbidden karma. And then he says, maybe there is something that Lord Yama wants to, get done through me. Kimsvid yamasya kartavyam yanmayadya karishyasi. So this is a maturity in thinking that if I have done right karma, I don't have to worry in life. My karmas will take care of themselves. Okay. Somebody might ask, what should I do about previous karmas? So you can't do anything. Right? Now we can have a choice that now I can be very careful about what karmas I do right now. Think of it this way that, this world is like a postman. It as though brings us our fair share of mail that we have, and unfailingly, it will reach the right person every time. But sometimes, let us say, I get an unpleasant news through that mail. That doesn't mean I start getting angry at the postman, right? So this is how this karma works. That world is here just to give me its fair share of my own karma. So I cannot get angry at some person or some situation, because all that is doing is giving me what I have done before. Okay, this is as I said, a maturity in thinking of a person, that now he says, I have to start taking charge of my life. How long can I go on blaming somebody, blaming some situation? So that is a stage of sadhana where my thinking is more towards karma. So what are we saying right now? Kruta karma anusarena means according to karmas, situations and experiences come in our life. So what are these three experiences? So it is said anishtam means a result which I don't want. So let us say I have to catch a flight. I get delayed to the airport and I miss the flight. So this is a undesired result. Anishtam, I don't want to get this result, but it happens. Let us say I go to the airport, I reach on time, and I get a free business class upgrade. This is a desired result, ishtam, what I like. But let us say I get delayed, I reach the airport and flight also gets delayed. So finally I get it. So this is mixed, something which I like and something which I don't like. This is Mishram. So our whole life, if we analyze, it will fall in one of these three categories. Either one is which I like, second one is I don't like, and third one is a mix of both. Means what this is trying to say is, when I get something which I like, like that business class upgrade, I should not become too happy. And when some things happen which I don't like, not to get too depressed about that thing. And Mishram, we know, anyway, it keeps going on. So that is the main theme of this verse, that in all these three things, how can I be more equanimous? It is said that our human birth itself is attained by a mix of these things, punya karma and papa karmas. So if you look at everybody's life as a whole, it will always be a mix of these two. I mean, sometimes it will be joys, sometimes it will be sorrows, but ultimately it will be almost a balanced. Although we might feel that, it's always on one side, it's an imbalanced scale. But our Vedas say no. It is a mix of both papa karmas and punya karmas. So, that is this different types of results. Anishtam, Mishtam, Anishtam, Ishtam, and Mishram. Three types. Now, ideal would be if we cannot even label them as three different. Not labeling them as Anishtam, not labeling them as Ishtam, not labeling them as Mishram. That's a very advanced stage of sadhana where it's all, something which is happening. I don't label. But we know it's very difficult for us. These labels are as though very natural. And Bhagwan says in Gita also, Indriyasyendriyasyarthe ragadvesho vyavasthitau. He accepts that as long as we are in this transactional plane, some ragadvesha will be there. Indriyas will have some kind of preferences. But the second line is important. He says, Tayor na vashamagachet. Samatvam tauhyasya paripanthino. Means he says, don't allow them to take you away. Means don't come under the sway of those sense organs. Let them be there. You label things as, if you are unable to let go of labels, let them be, some desired results, undesired and mixed results, but don't get carried away by those results. So that is this shloka, which is telling us that the way we should look at situations is trying to be more equanimous. Now, somebody might ask, how should we be equanimous? That would be the natural question, right? You said situations come in life because of my karma. And what are the situations? 3 types you mentioned. And you said in each of them, be equanimous. First way of looking at equanimity is what we just discussed. Karma. If I understand everything is karma, then it is a support for me to be equanimous. Okay. Second way to be equanimous is to shift my attention from karma to karma phala data. Okay, shift my attention from karma to karma phala data. That is where I say karma phala data is who? My dear Bhagwan. The same Bhagwan whom I love so much. If he is sending something, then it's okay. Either it is Ishtam, either it is Anishtam, Mishram. I'm able to see his hand in and through all these 3 results. So then I don't have this pressure of, losing my samatva in all these 3 aspects. So that is one way that we can have equanimity in these 3 results. Now there is another way, and that is jnanam. Jnanam is what? That whatever is experienced, that is mithya. Means that is not absolute. So that is a very strong way or stronger way to have samatva. If knowledge is thoroughly clear and I have done lot of sadhana for purity of mind, then that seeker can hold on to this knowledge. But something we have to hold on to, right? Either this branch or that branch or the third one. We cannot just, understand all the 3 branches and then say, now I don't know what I should do. Like understood all what is the advantage of first one, second one, third one, but I won't hold on to anyone. Okay, that should not happen. So 3 ways. One is karma, understanding karma, that my own karmas are coming back to me. Second is shifting attention to karma phala data, means Bhagwan, and saying that, these results are coming from Bhagwan, then it is not a problem. And then third one is clarity of knowledge. So now you see the beauty of this text. It's called Living Vedanta, right? So Living Vedanta is this, the knowledge part is the third one, where Vedanta tells me I am akarta, I am abhokta. Means as consciousness, I am not experiencer of this world. If I feel I am experiencer, it is said that is expression of ignorance. Then, do thorough shravanam. But now, if I need to hold on to that knowledge, then I need purity of mind. That will come from these 2. That will be when I can devote myself more to Bhagwan. And in this vyavahara, right, that plane which is there on top, If it is too turbulent, then I cannot hold on to this Paramarthika. Right? Paramarthika, I don't have any kind of experience at all. But in Vyavahara, if I have to balance myself or live this knowledge, then I have to use it in those two ways. Okay, this is how we should look at Samatva, or the situations coming in our life, living through them in Samatva. Okay, this is a beautiful verse. Anishtam ishtam mishram cha phalam prapnoti manavah krutakarmanusarena samatvam teshu dharayet. So if you noticed, what we did here was we summarized, or we looked at shloka 5 and 6. Okay, that was a guidance on how to use this body. Shloka 5 said use it in 3 ways: for serving others, for gaining knowledge, and for devotion to Bhagwan. And this shloka told us, with this body, understanding that it is, my own karma, go through all situations with samatva. So that is the summary of 5th and 6th shloka. Now comes a very interesting topic. Vedanta tells me I am not the mind. How should I translate this knowledge, and how do I live this knowledge in my day-to-day life? Okay, I'm not the body was the first one. Next we come to I'm not the mind. So then we will chant the shloka. Yasmadrutena kinchana, Yasmadrutena kinchana, Kriyate karma manavaihi, Kriyate karma manavaihi, Tanmanah kalpana rupam, Tanmanah kalpana rupam, Yojyatam savadhanatah, Yojyatam savadhanatah, Yasmadrutena kinchana, Kriyate karma manavaihi, Tanmanah kalpana rupam, Yojyatam savadhanatah. Yasmadrute manavaihi na kinchana karma kriyate. That without which we cannot do any action. Tanmanah kalpana rupam savadhanatah yojyatam. That is this mind, without which we cannot do any action. And what is the nature of this mind? Kalpana rupam. Kalpana rupam means it is of the nature of thoughts, or you can say imagination. That is kalpana rupam. But I should use it with great caution. Savadhanatah yojyatam. Because anything which is precious, we are very careful in using it, right? We just don't throw it anywhere. We just don't keep it anywhere. Any precious thing, we will make sure it's in a very safe place, kept very well. Something which gets used very often also needs a lot of attention. Like these machineries that get used, right, over and over again, we need to service them very often. Even our kitchen that gets used so many times in a day, we need to make sure it is clean. We need to give attention to that place. So imagine something which is getting used all the time. How much attention more we have to give to this mind. And if I understand the nature of mind, it will be easier for me to deal with mind. Because sometimes we know that mind is there, but we don't exactly know how it is operating. But we do know it gives me sorrow sometimes. I'm not able to control this mind and so on, right? So then we should make sure that we understand this mind and work towards it. Now it is said, mind is a very precious thing. Okay, that is where we started with this. And since it is there with me all the time, throughout the day, my experience of the world depends on my own quality of this mind, right? The thoughts that I entertain. Imagine think of it this way. If you are looking at a beautiful scenery, it might be like a Golden Gate Bridge or something. If I have some argument with someone, I had a heated discussion with someone. Now I look at that scenery. That is scene one. And second is, let us say I've attended some satsang or something, and then I go there and look at this scenery. Situation remaining the same, I am looking at the same world in different ways. That is this power of the mind. It will color the world the way it is right now. So I know we are almost close to this time. So we'll continue from here. Now is a very beautiful topic about how to befriend the mind. Because what we initially saw was what is the nature of this mind. Now we will look at how to befriend the mind and make the best use of it. Okay, that we will see in the next class. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.